Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal Part 371 based on novel. So let's start. The 100,000-foot dragon naturally had a lot of blood in its body, but the blood the old vermilion bird wanted was the blazing dragon blood within the bump on the dragon's head. This blood contained the essence of the fire inside the dragon. This was much more precious than the blood from the rest of its body and was very rare. That slap from the old vermilion bird also forced out all of the blazing dragon blood, and it fell on the burning earth incense stick. The moment the blood fell, it entered the incense stick and disappeared. Inside the earth trial, the 9-colored fire lotus was floating in the sky and Wang Lin was sitting above it. Behind it, the 9-colored vermilion bird continued to cry. There was a sense of struggle in its cry, as if it was trying to be reborn. There were endless flashes of light that spread across all directions. The sea of fire spread across the earth realm. Wang Lin's eyes were bright as his hands formed a seal and a fire tattoo flashed in his eye. This fire was 9-colored, and it began to rotate. It rotated very fast, and in a flash, it looked like a 9-colored vortex. 9 colors, fuse into one. Vermilion bird fourth awakening. Wang Lin's mind was clear, he had experienced 3 awakenings, and his power of fire had increased many folds each time. However, the previous 3 times couldn't compare to this awakening. The 4th awakening was extremely critical. It was the point where the corporeal fire transformed into ethereal fire. Since ancient times, far too few people were able to awaken their vermilion bird 4 times. No more than 5 people. The first generation vermilion bird, second generation vermilion bird, third generation vermilion bird, fourth generation vermilion bird. Aside from them, only Wang Lin had done it. Even though the third-step ancestor of the Fire Sparrow clan also had a hint of ethereal fire, he wasn't even a vermilion bird to begin with, so how could he even awaken? Even if he could give birth to ethereal fire, it would be nothing compared to the ethereal fire of a proper vermilion bird. The difficulty of the 4th awakening was indescribable. The power of ethereal fire spells could cause all cultivators to tremble in fear. However, the vermilion bird's 4th awakening required an unimaginable amount of fire. Only when enough heavenly fire had been gathered could there be a chance of awakening. The 9-colored fire lotus below Wang Lin released endless 9-colored fire which entered his body. This fire appeared inside his left eye, causing the 9-colored vortex to rotate even faster. At the same time, the large 9-colored vermilion bird cried even louder. Its cries were heaven-shattering and caused the entire earth trial to tremble. Not enough fire. Wang Lin looked up and fire erupted from his body. The 9-colored vortex flew out from his left eye and formed a 9-colored firestorm around him. This firestorm looked like it could destroy this world. Wang Lin's vermilion bird's 4th awakening relied on burning his obsession to ignite the fire of karma. Thus, the amount of fire required was even higher. Just at this instant, dark red bloodlight flashed in the earth trial and a thin, blood rain began to fall. The blood rain fell from the sky, and each drop contained destructive fire from the fire dragon. Its arrival brought Wang Lin a new source of fire. As the blood raindrops fell, they began to gather around Wang Lin rather than fall on the ground. Soon, a ball of blood formed around Wang Lin. The ball of blood began to burn and immediately started being absorbed by the 9-colored vermilion bird. The amount of fire inside Wang Lin's body increased rapidly and the 9-colored vermilion bird let out a heaven-shaking cry. The fire in the entire earth trial became even stronger. The rain of blood continued to fall, and as Wang Lin's hands formed seals, the fire around him burned like crazy. The 9-colored vermilion bird let out cries as the blood rain fused with it. Then the 9-colored feathers on his body began to burn. Still not enough. Wang Lin's eyes shined. He could feel that the fire hadn't reached the point where his vermilion bird could go through its 4th awakening. The eyes of the middle-aged man on the empty mountain revealed a strange light. He looked into the distance and his hands formed a seal and the fire mark between his brows floated before him. The fire mark became ethereal, as if it didn't exist. This middle-aged man let out a sigh and murmured, "This person has the aura of someone I'm familiar with, the aura of my disciple Lu Yun. When I left back then, I made it difficult for that child, The middle-aged man's eyes dimmed as he reached for the fire before him and threw it. An ethereal fire began to burn inside the earth trial. This fire gave off no heat but could still burn everything in its path. The moment it appeared, it flew toward Wang Lin. In an instant, the monstrous ethereal fire appeared around Wang Lin and quickly entered the struggling nine-colored vermilion bird. The middle-aged man was the master of the 5th generation, vermilion bird Lu Yun, the 4th generation vermilion bird. He had awakened the vermilion bird and entered the realm of ethereal fire. The moment the ethereal fire fused with Wang Lin's vermilion bird, the vermilion bird let out noble cry. The fire around Wang Lin increased several-fold. With the help of this fire, Wang Lin, who was sitting on the fire lotus, let out a roar. The fire around him surged and the nine-colored firestorm shrouded around him and the vermilion bird. As the vortex rotated, the 9 colors were about to fuse into one. It started rotating even faster and more violently. In an instant, the 9-colored firestorm became a blur of chaos and the 9 colors became blurry. In an instant, the red within the 9 colors collapsed and dissipated. Soon after, orange trembled and disappeared. These 2 colors of fire seemed to have fused, making this firestorm even more intense. The entire Earth trial was burning under this sea of fire. At this moment, on the Great Emperor planet, the dragon was staring at the old vermilion bird. All the blazing dragon blood from the bump on its head had been squeezed dry, to the point that not a single drop more could be forced out. The old vermilion bird stared at it and roared, "Damn it, what are you staring at? Since all the blazing dragon blood is gone, give me some ordinary dragon blood. You're so large, it won't be any problem to shed some blood." The dragon was going to let out a roar of revolt, but the old vermilion bird was one step faster. He waved his hand and an invisible force sealed the dragon's mouth, causing its roar to be forced back with nowhere to go. Borrowing this roar that was forced back, the old vermilion bird waved his hand. A wound 1,000 feet long appeared on the dragon, and blood gushed out of it like a waterfall. You have already given up all your blazing dragon blood, but if you give up now, it will all be a waste. If that kid can't awaken, I won't keep my promise. The grievance in the dragon's eyes became even stronger, but when it heard the old vermilion bird's words, it closed its eyes. It began to squeeze out its own blood like crazy while roaring in its heart. These vermilion birds are all perverted. It was the 1st generation vermilion bird that tricked me to make me leave the flame domain and then constantly drew blood. What kind of life is this? Now that the 2nd generation vermilion bird has promised me freedom, this old dragon has to try. Large amounts of dragon blood entered the earth trial. The blood rain fell from the sky, causing the fire to become even stronger. Although this dragon blood couldn't compare to the blazing dragon blood, there was much more of it. Thus, the amount of fire Wang Lin had for his 4th awakening increased. The firestorm around Wang Lin roared. After the red and orange fires disappeared, the yellow fire disappeared as well, followed by the ghostly green fire. On the Great Emperor planet, the old vermilion bird's eyes shined. He clenched his teeth as his left hand formed a seal and he pointed to the spot between his brows before pointing at the earth incense stick. An ethereal fire shot out from his finger toward the earth incense stick. "Little fellow, in order to help you, this old man has given it his all. Whether you can awaken for the 4th time will depend on your own luck." Inside the earth trial, after the rain of blood, the old vermilion bird's ethereal fire rushed in and fused with Wang Lin's vermilion bird. The appearance of this force caused the indigo, blue, and purple fires to disappear from the firestorm around Wang Lin. At this moment, 7 colors had already fused. Only black and white continued to struggle. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his hand and whispered, "The fire here has already reached a limit, and there is nothing left to burn. In that case, I don't need any help. I will fuse the black and white fires by force. Dao spell, fuse." Wang Lin roared, and the black and white fire around him trembled. A strange force came out of Wang Lin's body. It was a force that could fuse anything. At this moment, the white fire immediately dissipated. There was only black fire left within the firestorm. This black firestorm was still rotating, but it became lighter and lighter, weaker and weaker. A moment later, Wang Lin stood up and let out a roar, causing the black fire to collapse. The 9 colors fused into one. The moment the 9 colors fused into one, Wang Lin's vermilion bird rushed out. The vermilion bird was surrounded by faint ethereal fire, and it let out a heaven-shaking vermilion bird cry. Vermilion bird's fourth awakening, complete. Fourth awakening, turn my corporeal fire into ethereal fire. Wang Lin suddenly got up. The 9-colored fire lotus below him shattered into countless fragments and gathered toward his vermilion bird. The moment the vermilion bird went through its fourth awakening, all the fire in the earth trial began to gather from all directions. In the blink of an eye, it all fused into the vermilion bird's body. The fragments of the 9-colored fire lotus formed a 9-colored armor around the vermilion bird. Then the sea of fire arrived, and in just a moment, all of it was absorbed by the vermilion bird. From afar, it no longer looked a vermilion bird, but an eternal fire spirit. The fire inside had already reached the peak of corporeal fire and only needed one step to reach the realm of ethereal fire. The vermilion bird fire spirit seemed to distort as the fire roared, and it was going through its final transformation phase. The process could be long or short, but it couldn't be disturbed. Once it was disturbed, this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity would dissipate and the fourth awakening would revert, leaving no chance of another fourth awakening. This was an extremely critical moment for Wang Lin. However, just at this moment, a shocking change that Wang Lin couldn't have predicted occurred. The 10,000 cultivators were all starting at the earth incense stick, but only a few noticed that a shocking change was occurring in the magnetic fog around the Great Emperor planet. The magnetic force was churning the fog, and muffled rumbles could be heard from within. The Great Emperor planet was shaped like a bar, and normally it would be very difficult to detect its rotation. However, at this moment, the entire planet rumbled and the sky changed colors. The surrounding cultivators all felt like the earth was shaking and the sky was trembling. The Great Emperor planet began to slowly rotate. From an almost unnoticeable rotation, it got faster and faster until it was like a needle spinning frantically on a compass. This change immediately caused the expressions of the surrounding cultivators to change. Master Simo's eyes were filled with terror as he suddenly looked up. Grandmaster Yun Luo's hand was still forming seals when, with a bang, her right hand became a bloody mess. Her body was knocked back, her face became pale, and she coughed out a mouthful of blood. The upheaval of the Great Emperor planet, a calamity will descend upon the ancient star system. Grandmaster Yun Luo trembled as she retreated with fear in her eyes. Her divination just now had reached a critical point, and she was about to divinate the truth when a force came out of nowhere and caused her right hand to explode. However, the moment her right hand was crippled and her divination was interrupted, she saw a blurry image. In that image, there was a blurry figure surrounded by a bead. There was also a pointer of a compass behind him. It was the ancient star system, and it was filled with a monstrous bloodlight, and countless dead bodies could be seen. The entire ancient star system was dyed blood red. She saw Tao Master Miao Yin's flesh collapse and Origin's soul destroyed. She also saw the various third-step cultivators of the ancient star system all dying tragically. She also saw the collapse of the sealed realm formation. She also saw herself and a palm from the vague figure swinging at her. Intense pain filled her body as her body was reduced to ashes and her Origin soul died. The moment her Origin soul was destroyed, she let out a miserable scream. As that scream echoed, at the moment of her death, that blurry figure seemed to turn around and looked at her. This gaze became her nightmare. Grandmaster Yun Luo coughed out blood once more and retreated several hundred feet. She had never felt so afraid before. Tao Master Miao Yin also jumped up, and the cloud below him dissipated. He caught the fan and his divine sense spread out, his expression immediately changing. Not only him, Tao Master Blue Dream's eyes also narrowed. He waved his right hand and blue light surrounded his daughter. His gaze locked onto the already chaotic sky. At this moment, the sky was filled with fog and endless magnetic force. The magnetic fog around the planet suddenly descended. The old vermilion bird's expression was extremely serious as he silently looked up. Even the old man on the lizard that had his eyes closed the whole time suddenly opened his eyes in shock. If they reacted like this, there was no need to talk about the surrounding 10,000 cultivators. They all scattered and fear filled their minds. They could feel the Earth tremble and that the great Emperor planet was rapidly rotating. Of course, they were rotating with it. There was also that giant tortoise on the arena. It raised its head and let out a sharp roar. Even more magnetic fog appeared in the sky. The fog formed a vortex in the sky before everyone's eyes and descended on the giant tortoise on the arena. The 10,000 surrounding cultivators all scattered and fear filled their eyes. Only the old vermilion bird and company remained motionless as they stared at the incoming magnetic vortex. The magnetic vortex suddenly descended. It wasn't attacking the giant tortoise but aimed at the earth incense stick. In a flash, the vortex entered the earth incense stick. From afar, this scene looked very shocking. It was as if the earth incense stick had become a black hole that devoured all the surrounding magnetic fog. The old vermilion bird's eyes filled with shock and he subconsciously gasped. This, Master Simo's expression revealed terror. He was in a daze and couldn't guess what was happening in the earth incense stick. As for the pale Grandmaster Yun Luo, when she saw the magnetic fog enter the earth incense stick, the fear in her eyes became even stronger. Could it be that the blurry figure was him? Dao Master Miao Yun was also staring at the earth incense stick. His mind was trembling and he roared in his heart, "Heaven-defying bead, this is definitely the power of the heaven-defying bead." Inside the earth incense stick, Wang Lin was at the key moment of his fire's transformation into ethereal fire. However, the heaven-defying bead inside his body suddenly erupted with origin energy. Wang Lin's expression changed and he felt the earth trial tremble as if it was rapidly rotating. However, with him inside the trial, it was difficult to judge right away. At this moment, the sky of the earth trial was replaced by fog. This fog contained powerful magnetic force, and after it covered the whole sky, it charged at Wang Lin. Wang Lin couldn't dodge at all. The endless magnetic force rushed into his body and toward the heaven-defying bead. The heaven-defying bead appeared on his chest and looked like a cyclone that continued to devour the magnetic force. It flashed rapidly, and every time it flashed, even more magnetic fog was absorbed. All of this happened in a flash. Wang Lin felt his body rumble. As the heaven-defying bead absorbed the magnetic force, it released a force into his soul and images flashed in his mind. The images all contained the same thing. It was a giant compass. This compass was very large, it could be compared to space itself. On the compass, there was a large pointer that was slowly turning. There was flashlight that came from the pointer and went into the unknown. At the center of the compass was a socket with a giant bead. That bead was the heaven-defying bead. At the same time the images appeared in Wang Lin's mind, an illusion that shocked everyone's minds appeared around the Great Emperor planet as well. Outside the Great Emperor planet, there were flashes of light, and a giant compass appeared. After the illusion appeared, the Great Emperor planet in the middle looked like a pointer. At this moment, the giant Emperor planet was rapidly rotating just like a compass pointer spinning. There was a blurry bead at the center of the compass. This bead was cloudy, and a vague figure could be seen inside. This figure was Wang Lin. The pointer-like Great Emperor planet suddenly trembled and stopped rotating. It was pointing at the southwest direction. The moment it stopped rotating, a ray of ghostly light flashed from the Great Emperor planet and shot out toward the southwest direction of the ancient star system. The ghostly light was something unknown and moved at an indescribable speed. In a flash, it shot into the distance. Anything that got in its path, whether it was cultivators or cultivation planets, silently disintegrated. In a flash, the ghostly light arrived at the end of the southwest direction. This was where the Sealed Realm Formation was. The Sealed Realm Formation had cultivators stationed there at all times. All the cultivators felt their vision blur, and in a flash, these nearly 1,000 cultivators' bodies all disintegrated. The ghostly light directly collided with the Sealed Realm Formation. The Sealed Realm Formation seemed to boil and all the treasure spirits appeared. Then the ghostly light dissipated. It was unknown if it had merged with the formation or pierced into it. The illusory compass around the Great Emperor planet slowly dissipated and the planet stopped rotating, returning back to the way it was before. Inside the Earth Trial, the heaven-defying bead inside Wang Lin absorbed the last of the magnetic force. Then endless magnetic force rushed out of the bead as if it was spitting back out all of the magnetic force that was devoured. Wang Lin's body was like a sieve as the large amount of magnetic fog erupted from his body. The vermilion bird that was at the critical moment of turning from corporeal fire to ethereal fire was the first to bear the brunt of the magnetic force. The moment the magnetic force swept by, all the corporeal fire collapsed and turned into ethereal fire. However, due to the magnetic force that swept by, the fire went through a bizarre change. If the first-generation vermilion bird ancestor saw this change, even he would be shocked. The ethereal fire is invisible, and it can ignite all emotions ablaze. However, this fire can only be used to hurt enemies and can't increase the cultivation level of a vermilion bird clan member. Ethereal fire is the fire that can exterminate the world. It can kill but can't be extracted from the cultivator's body. It's invisible, so it can last forever. The amount that exists will only ever be the amount that was converted from corporeal fire. All the way until the cultivator's death, that's how much ethereal fire they will have. However, at the moment of the birth of Wang Lin's ethereal fire, it was swept by the magnetic force. A strange change that not even the first-generation ancestor could explain occurred. This moment the ethereal fire was born, it absorbed some of the magnetic force. If this was just it wouldn't be a big deal, as the external magnetic force could dissipate at any time. However, the magnetic force inside Wang Lin's ethereal fire came from the heaven-defying bead, so the magnetic force was eternal. As a result, although the magnetic force hadn't changed the power of the ethereal fire, it made Wang Lin the first person in existence to be able to absorb ethereal fire. Wang Lin didn't have much ethereal fire at its birth, but if he continued to absorb more, the power of his ethereal fire would be terrifying. The magnetic fog quickly surged out from Wang Lin's body and filled the Earth Trial in an instant. A moment later, it broke out from the Earth Trial and rose up above the Great Emperor planet. The endless magnetic fog rushed out and filled the sky of the Great Emperor planet. It charged back out and became the magnetic force that surrounded the planet. It looked as if hadn't changed from before, but if one looked closely, they would find the difference. Before entering the heaven-defying bead, the magnetic fog was destructive and was dead. However, now it seemed complete and seemed to contain life. The 10,000 cultivators stared dumbfoundedly at all of this. As they watched the second incense stick release all the magnetic fog, cracking sounds came from the giant incense stick that was half-burned. This sound was ear-piercing and clearly entered the ears of every cultivator. Cracks appeared on the incense stick and began to spread. Soon, cracks covered the entire incense stick. With a bang, the burning earth incense stick was split in half down the middle. The burning side slid off the giant tortoise and fell on the arena. The surroundings were completely silent. The human incense stick was extinguished and the earth incense stick was split in half. The only one that remained towering was the heaven incense stick. Grandmaster Yun Luo's expression was even more pale. The broken earth incense stick was like her broken mind, and the fear in her eyes became even stronger. It shouldn't be him, it can't be. It can't be him. Master Simo's mouth was dry after witnessing Wang Lin's trial. Everything that had happened was beyond his imagination. A trace of a deeply hidden sense of fear toward Wang Lin arose inside him. This was originally an impossible situation for a third step cultivator, to dread a second step cultivator. However, at this moment, it appeared within Master Simo. Dao Master Miao Yin stared at the earth incense stick that had broken in half. His eyes narrowed as he took out a peach and took a big bite out of it. There was a flash of greed in his eyes. Heaven-defying bead! Heaven-defying bead! I want it! Dao Master Blue Dream had a complicated expression as he withdrew his gaze and silently pondered. Beside him, Li Qianmai lowered her head, so no one could see her expression. The old vermilion bird scratched his head and revealed a bitter smile. This little fellow, what did he do? The change to the Great Emperor planet was clearly related to him. How many secrets does his kid have hidden? This is great. The first incense stick went out and the second incense stick was split in half. How can the trial continue? How will the trial be scored? The surrounding 10,000 cultivators went into an uproar after a brief moment of silence. The second incense stick actually split in half. This What cultivation level is this third young emperor at to be able to do this? The first incense stick extinguishing is already shocking, but it is nothing compared to the second incense stick splitting in half. I fear this is not related to the third young emperor. I think it has to do with the magnetic fog. However, why would the magnetic fog suddenly enter the incense stick? Various thoughts appeared in their heads, but all of their eyes landed on Wang Lin's body before the first incense stick, and they awaited his awakening. Will this person awaken, or will he ignite the next incense stick without touching it like before? In the Earth trial, after all the magnetic fog had rushed out of Wang Lin's body, the heaven-defying bead gradually disappeared. The entire Earth trial quieted down, only the ethereal fire around Wang Lin's vermilion bird was silently burning. After a long time, Wang Lin looked at the vermilion bird and inhaled. The vermilion bird let out a cry and entered his left eye. At the same time, ethereal fire appeared around Wang Lin's body. This fire was colorless and gave off a destructive aura. Wang Lin let out a deep breath of foul air and looked up at the sky. A moment later, instead of opting to leave, he stepped forward. He crossed tens of thousands of kilometers and arrived at the edge of the Earth trial, at the empty mountain that wasn't burned. The fourth-generation vermilion bird was sitting silently on the empty mountain. He was inside the trial as well, so he had clearly felt what Wang Lin had gone through, and he was shocked. However, he wasn't an ordinary person. He quickly suppressed the shock and silently looked into the distance. Before him, the world twisted and Wang Lin walked out. He arrived before the fourth-generation vermilion bird and also silently pondered. The fourth-generation vermilion bird looked back at Wang Lin and whispered, "After your fourth awakening, you still need to nourish your ethereal fire for a period of time. Bear that in mind." Wang Lin revealed a complicated expression toward the middle-aged man before him. He clasped his hands and asked, "Is Senior the fourth-generation vermilion bird?" "I am." The middle-aged man nodded. Wang Lin stayed quiet. After a long time, he whispered, "The fifth-generation vermilion bird has done a long for Junior." Before he died, he talked about how he accompanied the fourth-generation vermilion bird. The middle-aged man's eyes revealed sadness and he nodded. His voice contained melancholy as he whispered, "I know." Wang Lin raised his right hand and waved at the void. A crack to this storage space opened and a stone statue slowly flew out. This stone statue was formed by the old vermilion bird divine emperor's body after he died. The old vermilion bird divine emperor lived his life for the vermilion bird divine sect. In my opinion, no one is more qualified to be called a vermilion bird. As Wang Lin looked at the remains of the old vermilion bird divine emperor, memories of the past flashed in his mind. While the old vermilion bird divine emperor was worrying about the vermilion bird divine sect, you weren't there. The second-generation vermilion bird wasn't there. In the four divine sect, the white tiger divine emperor died, the black tortoise divine emperor defected, and the azure dragon divine emperor was trapped. For tens of thousands of years, only the old vermilion bird divine emperor held on. Even at this death, he couldn't forget about the matter of the vermilion bird divine sect. He couldn't forget his teacher. Today, Junior was able to see Senior, so I'll leave his remains here. I believe the old vermilion bird divine emperor would choose to stay here as well to accompany the teacher who abandoned him and never went back. Perhaps this is his home. Wang Lin withdrew a few steps, knelt before the old vermilion bird divine emperor, and kowtowed 3 times. "Old vermilion bird divine emperor, this disciple has brought you here from the vermilion bird divine sect. I have brought you back to the side of the fourth-generation vermilion bird, your home. I can't repay what you've done for me, but my promise will continue." After he got up, Wang Lin looked at the fourth-generation vermilion bird with a complicated expression. He clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, Senior, for helping me before. Junior is going to leave." Wang Lin let out a sigh and walked away. He could accept the second-generation vermilion bird, but he couldn't accept the fourth-generation vermilion bird. If the fourth-generation vermilion bird hadn't left, the old divine emperor would have already gone through the fourth awakening. If the fourth-generation vermilion bird hadn't left, the old divine emperor wouldn't have died. The fourth-generation vermilion bird looked at the corpse of his disciple and his body trembled. A powerful sense of sadness appeared in his eyes. He slowly stood up and his trembling right hand touched the face of his disciple. Lu Yun, your teacher, has wronged you. Tear flowed down from the eyes of the fourth-generation vermilion bird. Teacher knew everything about the Four Divine Sect. It's just that I couldn't go back. When I came to the ancient star system, someone placed a mysterious seal in me, the fourth-generation vermilion bird murmured. His appearance seemed to age a lot as he looked at the corpse of his disciple and thought of the past. Over the years, I have tried to break the seal on me, but I still haven't succeeded. Even the first-generation ancestor couldn't release the seal. I can only stay in the Earth trial and not take half a step outside. If I were to leave, the seal would erupt, making me lose my sanity and become crazy. Lu Yun, it's not that teacher didn't want to go back, I just couldn't go back. The tears of the fourth-generation vermilion bird fell as he looked at the corpse of his disciple. The tears contained the endless sadness his heart, the painful memories, and the endless remorse. Not just me, but the second-generation vermilion bird also has this seal inside him. He can suppress it, so he doesn't have to stay inside the Earth trial, but he can't leave the fallen land. Fallen land. Fallen land, this is the fallen land of my vermilion bird clan. Either we fall into madness or fall from grace, the fourth-generation vermilion bird bitterly murmured as if he was explaining it to his disciple. Wang Lin's figure walked toward the sky further and further away until he disappeared without a trace. The moment his figure disappeared, his closed eyes suddenly opened under the human incense stick. This video will end here.